Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission for February 8th, 2022, 7 p.m. This meeting is called to order. We'll now take a moment of silent prayer and meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Vice Chair Lewis.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Paulina, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Williams? Present. Commissioner Gutierrez?
Here.
Vice Chair Lewis? And Chair Rivera?
Here. Tonight, we have minutes from regular Planning Commission meeting on December 14th, 2021. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? The minutes are approved and submitted, as submitted. Oral communications. Oral communications, this is the time when any member of the public may speak to the Commission on any matter within the scope of duties assigned to the Commission relating to non-agendized or consent calendar items. Other matters included on this agenda may be addressed when that item is under consideration. For all oral communications, the chairperson may impose reasonable limitations on public comments to assure an orderly and timely meeting. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the Planning Commission and staff's ability to respond to public comments at this meeting. Thus, your comments may be agendized for a future meeting or referred to staff. The Commission may ask questions for clarification if desired at this time. We have one item on the consent calendar this evening. Consent calendar's item is extension of time for tentative parcel map number 82784. Administrative Use Permit, NOS 19-31 and 20-31, and Subcommittee for Design Review, NOS 19-49 and 20-12 at 2445 Rio Verde Drive. Does anyone have any questions of staff? Commissioner Williams?
None at this time.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Not at this time.
Vice Chair Lewis?
No.
We'll now move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Tonight we have one public hearing.
Excuse me, Chair, we will need a motion on that consent calendar, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we all in agreement for the extension?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll take roll call. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lewis?
Aye.
And Chair Rivera?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Public hearing. Paulina, who will present the staff report?
Joanne, our planning manager, will present the staff report.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission, and also members of the public. The The project site is located within a neighborhood commercial zone in the Stater Brothers Shopping Center. The shopping center is surrounded by single-family residential uses on all four sides. The subject tenant space is located on the northeast side of the shopping center, which is highlighted in red. The CUP is for the expansion of an existing veterinary clinic pictured on the projector. They are expanding into the adjacent tenant space that was previously occupied by an eyebrow threading salon. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And the veterinary clinic will provide general wellness exams, laboratory tests, and also sell retail food, medicine, and supplements for dogs and cats. The area that is highlighted in blue up on the projector is the location of the existing veterinary clinic, and they are going to be expanding in the adjacent tenant space next door. The existing suite is 1,970 square feet. They are adding 1,385 square feet to the use. And this allows for two extra exam rooms, the relocation of their administrative offices, and the surgery room. There are some concerns with parking when this item was initially submitted before the Planning Commission, when their existing tenant space prior to their existing veterinary clinic from opening. And those parking concerns have been mitigated by adding additional operating conditions, and those additional operating conditions will continue on to this particular conditional use permit application. And in addition to that, there is an additional operating condition requiring that the veterinary clinic monitor the planters in the parking lot to make sure that they're free of pet waste. And staff would like to point out that since the veterinary clinic had opened, staff has not received a single complaint regarding parking and the operation of the clinic in itself. With this, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution Number 21-6100, approving CUP Number 2107. If the Planning Commission has any questions, I'm available to answer.
Thank you for the staff report. Does any member of the Planning Commission have any questions for staff? We'll now open public hearing, and we'll hear testimony from the applicant. Frank Wisniewski.
How are you doing this evening? My name is Frank Wisniewski. I'm the operating manager of the veterinary clinic. We're looking to expand into the existing suite next door so that we can expand our capabilities. The existing space is really small for a veterinary clinic, and so with the additional space, we'll be able to do concurrent surgeries. We'll be able to serve more clients and better take care of the pets and the animals of West Covina. We're hoping to. Currently, we have, as the previous slide showed, we have a couple of exam rooms. We're looking to have 2 more exam rooms, so we can have, instead of having anybody having to wait in the lobby, they actually have an exam room to be going into, and again, moving our administrative offices from where they are now into the new existing suite, open up that space so we can open them up for exam rooms, and enlarge our surgical suite in the new space. Are there any questions for?
Does the staff have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Gutierrez? Vice Chair, please. Okay, so hearing testimony from those in favor. Are there any here that are in favor of the use permit, the conditional use permit? Are there any opposed? Well, there's no rebuttal needed because nobody opposed you. So at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll now open the discussion within the commission and see if we have any last thoughts. Commissioner Williams?
No comment.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Just wanted to say that's great that this animal hospital is expanding in our community, and I think the ownership for investing back in our city and expanding and making this resource available to our residents.
Vice Chair Liz? At this time, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Sorry, let me. Okay, yes. Sorry. Commissioner Gutierrez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lewis?
Aye.
And Chair Becerra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
This action is final unless appealed by the City Council within 10 days. Non-hearing items. We have 2 non-hearing items on this agenda. Item number 4, 2021 through 2029 Housing Element Update. Paulina, who will present the staff report?
Chair Becerra, we have our City Manager, Dave Carbony, tonight joining us, and he will be presenting the report regarding the Housing Element Update.
Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. I'm Dave Carmody, West Covina City Manager. We just wanted to provide you with a brief update this evening about a major work in progress. It's a receive and file item, so we're not asking you to take action tonight. We want you to be aware of exactly where we are in this process and some of the issues that we're addressing. State law requires that every city in this state develop and adopt a general plan. This is one of the 7 mandated elements. The other ones are land use, open space, conservation, housing, which we're going to talk about tonight, circulation, noise, and safety. I think it goes without saying that in these times, housing dominates all aspects of urban planning and policy. This is a major sector of the U.S. economy and the dominant land use in almost every American city. Good quality housing is the foundation of stable and good quality communities, and housing-related issues play a dominant role on local land use planning and policy efforts. Goes without saying that updating a housing element can be a little daunting. The California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, plays the critical role. HCD has reviewed West Covina's housing element to determine whether it complies with state law and has been providing written findings back to the city. Suffice to say, we haven't qualified it yet. We're not quite there. HCD's approval will be required before the city can adopt the housing element as part of its overall general plan. Their letter back to the city is a part of your packet tonight, and I would ask that you please take the time to read it when you have a moment to do so, because it's very detailed. State HCD has emphasized this in terms of state priorities, and they've staffed up to help us with that. They've added an additional 15 staff members. So this is a new time we're in, and we're going to have to provide a lot more details and a lot more certainty in terms of what West Covina can and will be doing. We know that revisions will be required. A major point to be made is that public input is critical. I believe that public participation and the requirement for that really presents this community with an opportunity to engage in a dialogue, both to define problems and to create solutions. the inclusion of community stakeholders in the housing element, public participation process helps us ensure that appropriate strategies are more efficiently and effectively evaluated, developed, and implemented. This is where we are in the timeline. In late 2020, we hired John Douglas and his firm to assist us with this process. He's a very experienced consultant, has done this a number of times in a number of California cities. Almost a year ago, in May of 21, you had a joint public meeting with the Planning Commission and City Council. On October 27th, we had a town hall meeting for community input, and we submitted the draft housing amount to HCD in late November. It's now January of 22, and we've received their comments back. Again, those are in your staff report, and that's the to-do list in front of us. This next slide summarizes all the needed changes, and we're not going to be asking you to craft those from a standing start. That's why we have John Douglas on board, and he's going to be bringing back some draft recommended changes to the submittal that we presented to the state. They're asking us to evaluate the cumulative failures of previous plans. Used to be you'd got a pass for that, and you'd say, well, the world starts today, and we're just going to start planning. But they want us to explain why we didn't achieve our goals the last time around. They want us to really emphasize housing needs in this community. They want us to pay attention to fair housing and employment trends and to household characteristics and the ability of those households to pay for housing. They're going to drill down in terms of the available land inventory. They want us to look at all of our government constraints. They want us to look at non-governmental constraints, things like financing. They want us to look at special needs housing, housing for elderly, people with disabilities. They also want us to identify what low-mod housing units, rental housing units in town are at jeopardy of converting to market rate housing. They see those as units lost. Item C on their list is housing programs. Again, they're going to ask us to identify sites to accommodate the needs that are in front of us. They want us to especially emphasize what programs the city can offer to help develop housing. And they want us, in item D, to quantify our 5-year objectives. They want us to be more specifics for types of housing units by income category, including all income levels. They want us to look at new construction. They want us to look at rehab. They want us to look at conservation. And then finally, they want us to emphasize public participation. They've asked us to hold workshops, to issue surveys, to hold public meetings on weekends or untraditional times, evenings. They want us to send out newsletters. They want us to tell our story at neighborhood events. They want us to offer translation services for people who want to converse in other languages. And again, our consultant, John Douglas, is going to be helping us with a response to all of these state suggestions. Finally, I just want to make mention of consequences of noncompliance. There are a number of them. Because the housing element is mandatory in the city's general plan, they could deem that our entire general plan was inadequate if we don't have a valid housing element as part of it. The city could be vulnerable to litigation from housing rights organizations, developers, state HCD, and others. We just got a letter today from a special interest group that was wanting to remind us of the need for union-built housing. So there's a lot of people that are going to have input for us as we go along. It's possible that if we don't adopt a valid housing element, that we would lose our permitting authority at the local level. The courts would ultimately have the authority to take that from us and to issue permits under the court's jurisdiction. Obviously, these are on the list of bad outcomes for West Covina. There could be financial penalties. Ultimately, the city might appoint an agent to handle this as a court receivership. And finally, the city wouldn't be able to apply for different loans and grants and aid. With that, we're available for comments if you have any, and look forward to returning at a future night with some detailed suggestions about revisions that are needed. Thank you very much.
I had a quick question, actually. So what kind of financing options are actually available to the city of West Covina? I mean, again, I'm just trying to figure out, is this sort of a prayerful sort of submission here, or is this, or is there actually some program that money's going to rain down for purposes of financing these types of projects, low and moderate income housing projects, senior housing, things along those lines, post redevelopment? How is that going to work?
Well, housing financing is never easy, although these are good times for interest rates. And so we're seeing a lot of new housing stock come out of the ground now. It's really heartening to us. Financing for housing for low and moderate income is always a combination, indeed a collision of different funding packages. The state has bonds available. We could compete for tax credit financings. And the city has been successful in the last couple of years participating in those on a pass-through basis. We haven't pledged the faith and credit of the city, but we have endorsed project applications and been successful at that. There's also some federal money. I'm just pleasantly shocked these days at the amount of money suddenly available from the federal level. And so through the Department of Housing and Urban Development and others in terms of economic opportunities, we'll be pursuing those as well. But what we'll return with is a list of all of these different programs. Section 8 Housing Assistance Payment Program, state tax credits, federal monies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a list as long as both arms. But there is money out there. It does require a high level of energy and a commitment by the city to pursue those. So I guess that's on our to-do list.
Okay. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes, sir.
I had a question. I did notice in HCD's comments that they are indicating that the city's going to have to look at redoing their ADU unit ordinance.
Well, the state isn't going to get everything they want in this process, and neither are we.
Okay.
We believe that the ADU ordinance that was considered and adopted was vetted pretty carefully by our city attorney and complies with state law. Mm-hmm. I'll be interested in their comments once we get into the details of that. But there could be some negotiation involved to get to a compliant housing element. Okay. I think the main reason we wanted to bring this to you tonight is there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. But I want to make sure that the public and certainly the commission is aware of the state's concerns, and so that you're not in any way surprised when we return with some suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
When you were speaking with Vice Chair Lewis regarding interest rates, were you talking about loans to the city or loans to buyers or to residents?
I was speaking to loans available to developers for land acquisition and takedown, and also to home buyers. We're at a period of historically low mortgage finance rates, and I think that's helped us get a lot of projects out of the ground.
Well, being in mortgage rates have actually increased, and probably we'll see another increase by the Federal Reserve to probably in the next 7 or 8 months to probably slow down. Yeah. So that being said, my question was, would they have a program to, I know there's different programs that will help first-time home buyers with lending them to down payment or gifting it to them after a certain period of time. Maybe we could, if they wanted for our city, if there could be a program where they could do something else in addition to that for, to help us push that. I mean, if they want us to give property away, maybe they can kick in.
Well, there are carrots and there are sticks. There are incentives and there are penalties. I know the last 2 or 3 housing developments that have come before this city, the developers have volunteered to help with buyer down payment assistance or in other ways. Some cities have inclusionary policies where they require that just a certain fixed percentage, a minimum threshold of percentage of units are available to people of low and moderate income.
Those items are available to everybody, everyone. They're not down payment assistance. They're not allowed. They're closing cost credits.
I understand. So we don't know yet what the state's going to require of us, but we know we're in for a bit of a challenge.
So so now we can ask for a motion to receive the file?
That would be at the prerogative of the chair, but I think we would welcome that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. As I've addressed many times about a planning director being in place, obviously I read the letter and it looked like, although they thanked us for responding, there was a failure to understand completely what they required. So I hope that the city manager now places the importance of what a planning director would be and how beneficial it would be to this department in direction and guiding. The person with education and background like a planning director is so important and necessary. Subcontracting to the gentleman that you mentioned just in recent times, we've been without Mr. Anderson for 2 years now. So contrary to what the council said, if it ain't fixed or if it ain't broken, don't fix it. It is broken. And the state is pointing that out. So let's hope we move forward and make some money or make some room, something for a hiring of a planning director, because these guys would benefit from it. These guys would benefit and our city would benefit. Thank you.
That is, actually, I agree with that. But also I think that, as West Covina, Lynn here, we know we're built out, we are limited. But if they could provide some assistance to help us to get where we need to be, then, I think everyone would be happy. So at this point, can we ask for a motion?
Motion to receive and file.
I second the motion.
Was that a second?
I'll second it, and I just have a question too. City Manager, can you explain the experience of the consulting firm that we're using and their background and all their years of experience in developing plans like this in our community, and also explain a little bit about how it is part of the process, and when the state writes letters to cities like ours, is that it's part of the process in developing the new strategy and plan for our city for years to come, and that this guidance is going to help our city develop future plans with the help of our consultants. So if you could explain a little bit about their background.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
John Douglas is a very experienced urban planning professional who specializes in housing elements in California. He's been doing this for more than 30 years. I've been a city manager in this county since 1987. I've used him for 3 or 4 housing elements now. He's really good at it. And among his gifts, I think he'll help West Covina develop a plan that just isn't a cookie cutter plan, but a plan in which you actually see West Covina and solutions that are right for this community. I know maybe it's just a case of misery-loving company, but we're in the same boat as a lot of cities, 400 cities in the state and 88 cities in this county. There's just a dozen or so now that have qualifying housing elements. So everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's receiving this much attention, and the rules have changed. The rules have changed because the state has prioritized housing as a major statewide issue, an issue of statewide concern. So we will work closely with John Douglas and return to you with a package that we think will qualify for state approval and will make sense for West Covina.
Was he just the first choice or only choice, or was there anyone else who was interviewed for this position?
Well, maybe our planning manager can help me, but I do know when we secure consultant services, we issue an RFP and invite qualified firms to submit, and we interview firms. He was the top-ranked firm and therefore the recommended firm.
So we have a motion, a second by Commissioner Gutierrez. So Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lewis?
Aye.
Chair Becerra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so item number 5. Administrative use permit number 21-24. Paulina, who will present the staff report?
Joanne will be presenting the staff report.
My mic was off. The project site is located within the neighborhood commercial zone in the Varney Shopping Center, located on the east side of Azusa Avenue between Roland Avenue and Thelborn Street. The shopping center is surrounded by single-family residential on the east, some single-family residential on the north, and commercial uses on the west, also on the north, and commercial uses on the south. The subject tenant space is located on the south side of the line pad building on the east side of the shopping center, which is highlighted in red, and it was formerly occupied by a Zumba studio. As part of the AUP administrative use permit process, staff sent out a notice to all properties and occupants within 300 feet from the project site, informing them of the receipt of the application. The hearing tonight is being held because as part of the process, one of the neighbors submitted a letter to the city requesting a public hearing because of concerns. So the letter that staff did receive from the neighbor had concerns related to noise, water runoff and drainage, pool chemical bottle disposal, the tenant space capacity, and the potential for parties and alcohol use. A copy of this letter has been included in the Planning Commission agenda packet for this hearing, for this item. And the concerned neighbor is here at the meeting tonight. The project is for a swim school. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I would just like to point out that although these are the proposed hours of operation, the hours of operation would change dependent on the school year, because according to the applicant, most of their clients are school-age children. To alleviate some of the neighbors' concern, staff did add additional operating conditions of approval in the draft resolution, and they include prohibiting the drainage of pool water into the alley. The applicant would be prohibited from renting out the tenant space or any part of the swimming pool area for parties or operating as a public pool. Since the conditional use, since the administrative use permit application is for a swim school and not a public pool. No amplified sound or should be audible from the outside of the tenant space. They would have to keep all doors closed during the hours of operation. And this particular condition has been kept on or included in this resolution, mainly because from experience from the previous use, which was a Zumba studio, they always had their door open and they had music blasting at all times, and they they were not good neighbors, so the noise bothered the residents living to the east of the site. And the speakers would be required to be directed towards the front. The city will also monitor any complaints and forward the item for Planning Commission to review when excessive complaints are received. And this particular point was not included in the condition of approval in the previous Zumba studio, so staff did not have the authority to bring it up unless it was it was to basically revoke their administrative use permit application. And it didn't get to that point because they kept on changing ownerships. And then another item is the capacity limitation. Because of parking limitations, the site would be limited to 24 occupants at any given time. However, I'd like to point out that in their project plans, they include a capacity of 15, and this was based on the architect's knowledge of the building code. There is a condition of approval limiting the occupants to 24, or the maximum allowed by the building and fire code, whichever is less. Here's the proposed floor plan. The swimming pool would be largely in the middle of the tenant space and would occupy the majority of the tenant space. The reception area is towards the front, then changing rooms, the bathrooms, and the storage area, which stores the pool equipment and mechanical components of the tenant space. These are site photographs. The first photograph on the left is the site right along here. It's right next door to Fish World. And to the right is a photograph behind that tenant space of the back door and the alley. Just like to point out that along the east side of the alley, it abuts to single-family residential neighbors. With this, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 21-6101, approving AUP number 2107. If the Planning Commission has any questions, I'll be available to answer.
Does the commission have any questions for staff? Vice Chair Lewis?
Not at this time. I have questions for the applicant.
So with regard to the standard that seems to be included in the new recommended disposition of this, what's the standard with regard to excessive complaints? What are the city's standards in that? Is that is it like 2 complaints? If somebody complains 10 times, is that considered excessive? How are we delineating that?
I would say I consider 3 or more complaints excessive. If the code enforcement officer went out there to let the operator know that there are some concerns and those concerns are not addressed, and they keep on repeating itself more than 3 or more times, then I would consider that as excessive.
And let's assume hypothetically, you get complaints from the same person 3 times. Is that considered excessive?
If it's for at 3 different times, and if there is some investigation and found those complaints are valid, then yes.
And then that would be forwarded to the Planning Commission, and then we'd have a hearing on it?
We would agendize it, and you would have a hearing, yes.
Is that by default, or is that at the discretion of planning staff?
It would be by discretion of planning staff based on the condition of approval.
Okay, all right. And then with regard to indoor pools in a commercial setting, have we ever approved anything like this previously?
We have not.
Okay.
Not for a swim school.
Understood. Have an indoor pool in any context?
Not that I'm aware of. I'd have to.
Don't you guys have a fitness center that has an indoor swimming pool?
I was just going to say, we did approve it
Yes.
through Gold's Gym at the Plaza West Covina. They have an indoor pool there.
There's also one at LA Fitness, I thought, too.
Yeah.
Quick question. Do we have any spillover drainage requirements as a condition of approval?
As a condition of approval, there is a condition of approval prohibiting drainage from being done from spilling over in the alley. But as far as any general drainage is concerned, that would be a engineering issue.
Okay. And so engineering will address drainage issues if this
Yes.
is approved. Okay. With regard to noise, as was discussed previously, there's two other indoor pool settings that I can recall, but they were very large occupants. LA Fitness, Gold's Gym are very large establishments. This is significantly smaller than that. So my question is, are there any sound mitigation protections that we require for indoor pools in this context?
Other than the condition prohibiting amplified sound from being heard from the outside, and also the condition regarding decibel limitations. Other than those, there isn't any condition of approval requiring them to install, I guess, a sound wall or anything like that.
I was just curious if we had any standard on that, or whether we should. I mean, growing up with a pool in my parents' backyard, we obviously water makes a lot of noise if you if you really want to. So that's the reason why it's sort of I don't know, somewhat of a concern that I have. But we'll address that with the applicant. Thank you.
I have a question. So how will the water be contained within the pool area? There'll be some sort of barrier between the walls and the pool?
The applicant is best to answer that question.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions for staff? At this time, we'll open public hearing. We'll hear testimony from the applicant. Josh Wynn.
Just have some notes. My name is Josh Wynn. I'm the applicant. I'm here with my wife and our partner, Charlene Gao. My wife is the swim instructor. She's been swimming since she was 6 years old, swam for college, and she's been teaching. She taught swimming in Japan when we lived there, and for the past 10 years, she's been in travel retail. And since COVID hit, that really impacted her income. So we were talking, what can we do to offset that loss? So we decided to try this venture out. And before I even did anything, any contact with architects or contractors or anything, I did market research, and there's really only 3 major swim schools in LA County. There's one in Pasadena. They have a very large facility. There's 2 in Rancho Cucamonga. There's it's called Aquatots and Premier. Aquatots is actually in a residential center, not a residential, but a commercial retail center. It's like how we will be. And the other small school that we know of is in Hacienda Heights. And so we felt like it was a good opportunity because they're usually, they have a wait list, and they're kids are waiting to learn how to swim. And I feel like my wife and her skills, she'll bring a good service to the community, teaching children a good life skill. Because a leading cause of death in children is drowning. The other thing, that's basically what we hope to do for the community. And I've heard of the noise complaints, from other residents and tenants in the building. They've talked about the Zumba school as well. It was a disturbance even to the people who were there doing business. As a swim school, we hope to operate pretty much like any school. We will have kids, they have to adhere to rules when they're in the building, especially it's a pool environment. They're there to learn safety. They're not there to play. They're not there to run around the pool and get hurt. That would actually cause me to lose my insurance. Another thing that was brought up was, we started development on our website, but our website was a template that I used from Wix. So it had some things on there that we don't necessarily wanted to have, like private parties is absolutely not allowed according to the insurance we have to carry as a swim school. So there's no private parties. There's not going to be loud music playing. It's primarily just going to be for instruction to children and adults that want to learn how to swim for, if they want to learn a skill just for fitness, because it's low impact. It's good for your body. So not a lot of noise. We're not going to put speakers on the walls to blast music. No bull horns. It's not for, telling everybody. It's going to be individual classes of no more than 1 to 3 children per coach. And we might have, maximum that would fit in that pool is maybe 6 coaches. So, roughly anywhere from 9 to 18 kids at maximum that would be in the facility at a time. Plus, we have to consider the adults that'll be there. Will they fit to watch their children? Because that's another requirement that we have, is that their parent has to remain on site so that we have another person monitoring that their child isn't running around and wanting to hurt themselves. So no running, yelling, and no loud voices in the facility. There's not going to be a tremendous amount of splashing, just except kicking, because they're not going to be allowed to jump in. That's a big no. It's not deep enough for that anyways. The other thing is the back door. Most of the time, probably 95% of the time, unless I need to open it to, let some of the humidity out, we will have a commercial dehumidifier to keep humidity down anyways, to prevent mold. It's going to stay shut because in an indoor swimming pool, it's really important that you keep the temperature at a high level, because when the temperature drops too far and when the water is warm, you have a lot of evaporation, which is going to cause the environment to be unhealthy. So it's going to be shut. That's why we have a reception area in the front, because that closes off where people can watch their kids, makes it a little bit more comfortable for them. Pool equipment, it's all going to be in a closet, so it's not going to be outside the building creating a lot of noise. And that's also, for safety, for our equipment and people. Water. So water drainage, it's not even a residential person who owns a pool can't drain their water into the street. So it's against California law. If it goes into the drains on the street, it could run into the streams, into the ocean, pollute the environment. So we will have sewer lines. If we have to backwash the pool filter, it's going to go into the sewer. So any wastewater will go into there. And around the pool, I've heard the question from earlier, how do we control water going into the walls? There will be a drain all the way. It's a 2-inch drain all the way around the pool. So the water that splashes out will go into the drain and go into the sewer line. Trash, the chemical bottles, mostly the only chemicals we'll be using is chlorine and muriatic acid to control pH. And both of those, once they're empty, we can rinse them out, crush them, they're recyclable. That's pretty much all I have.
Did you say something? I couldn't
I said
hear.
that's pretty much all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the commission have any questions for the applicant?
I do. I noticed the plans that were prepared, the architect indicated they weren't to scale. What's the actual width and length of the pool that's going to be constructed inside the building?
It's 20 by 60 feet.
Okay, because one of the dimensions that he did give, he indicated it was going to be about 30 feet wide.
No, it's the space is 31 feet, and then the length of the whole entire space in the actual floor plan is 31 wide and 99 feet long. And the pool will be 20 feet wide and 60 feet long to allow 5 feet of space all the way around the pool. Because that's another, I think the health department requires that.
Okay.
That was another permit we have to submit for as well. So the health department has to approve for the pool. So that was a requirement I believe that they have is has to be a minimum of 5 feet all the way around the perimeter of the pool.
Now, I did notice on the floor plan that you showed 2 bathrooms, and then there's a hallway or an open area that leads to the changing room. So the changing room would be co-ed, or because I noticed your age groups are from 3 to 18?
It's co-ed, but they will be individual stalls. That's what other schools are doing in the areas. They have a changing room, and it's just like how you would go into a fitting room at a department store. They have those kind of fitting room doors, and people can change in there.
Okay. So that one's going to be, I forget what they call it, unisex.
Yes, and at least one of them is ADA compliant, and one of our bathrooms is as well.
Okay. Would you ever make classes available for swim teams?
That is a possibility that we've discussed, but it's really depends on if that's a venture my wife wants to take on. She has the experience of being on a swim team. She just doesn't know if that's something that she wants to take on yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Will the pool have a ADA accessible lift to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Vice Chair Lewis?
So my only question was relating to your build out. I suppose are you going to have any sort of additional sound barrier or anything that you're going to put in with regard to I believe that'd be the northern wall?
Prior to even me hearing about noise complaints of the school that was there before, we sound echoes off of walls, especially even in this room you can hear echoing. So it's a swim school, so we can't be screaming while we're teaching kids how to. Everybody's got to kind of keep it quiet so we can hear each other talk. So I considered putting sound dampening boards on the walls to prevent some of that echoing.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. I would imagine it's similar to like if you had a Taekwondo studio there, you have the people, kids, I'm sure if you have 18 kids in there and I mean, this seems to me like a family business where you're encouraging, families to bring their children, like you said, to learn to swim. I mean, I've lived here since I was 5 in West Covina. We had the plunge and all of our family went and had swimming lessons, and I think it was really important as a child to learn how to swim, especially in Southern California, where probably every third house has a pool. But anyways, so those are all the questions for the applicant.
Just
the
one
commission.
more. In the staff report, you had a chance to read the conditions. The square footage that they indicated for your facility was going to be a little over 2,800, but I noticed on your plans it indicates it's 2,900, which...
Total square footage of the space is 2,989, according to the landlord.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're going to ask, actually I don't see, there's a Kim Sutliff. Are you in favor or opposed? Okay, so is there anyone here in favor? Okay, then Kim, come on up.
I'm Kim Sutliff, and my husband and I live at 413 North Rivera. We have the unfortunate privilege of being at the top of the horseshoe of that alley.
Ma'am, sorry,
So
if you
we
can
can't
speak
understand
into the
you.
microphone, please.
I'm sorry, and we live at 413 North La Breda, and we live at the top of the horseshoe of that alley. So noise has always been the factor. And for the past almost 24 years, we've learned the hard way. So that's why I put the letter out to the city and asked for the hearing. We didn't do that with Zumba. And if 3 complaints were excessive, we wouldn't have had 9 years of things. A lot of, when I sent the letter in, a lot of it's addressed in the staff report. They said they won't rent out for parties, but that means what about their members? If they allow them to have pool parties, that brings more noise because nobody just sits in the pool. You've covered the drainage as far as the alley or the front. It won't go onto the street or the parking lot. That's good. I'm confused on the amplified sound. I think some of these things were cut and paste from the Zumba's permit. It says no noise amplifier will be used, but then it also says amplified sound will not be allowed over a decibel. And then later it says any speakers will face the front. So all that contradicts each other. So I just kind of want to clarify. As I say, noise is the big factor. Let's see. It says it talked with neighbors. I'm not sure who all they talked with. But neighbors to either side of us are a little more, they're not in direct line. Our big thing with Zumba was their bass, and that reverberated through our house. And they weren't allowed to do a lot of things, but they did. So let's say if 3
Can I
complaints.
ask what the hours of operation were for the Zumba?
They went, well, during the day, I don't know. I was at work most of the time, but they went to 8 or 9 o'clock at night and on Saturdays. And then
Really?
they say my concern with the parties and that they held functions outside of their realm. So sticking with this, they say it's the trash factor. They have, when the Axe company came in, we addressed the trash because, and the people at the fish store said that the landlord had taken dumpsters away from them. So there was always trash piled by that trash enclosure. And our concern is with these type of containers, that they can be washed out, recycled, as long as they don't end up in a pile there. The stuff ends up in our yards from people going through the alley. And I'd rather not have those containers coming into the yard. So that was our concern there. The drainage you talked to, as far as doing stuff on the walls for sound, talked to the guy at the Axe store. He had, when he was doing the things, he invited me over. I saw what he did. And we're not that close to him, but it wasn't bad. So he might be able to help you there. The website shows aerobics, so if that is the case, peachy, but then it comes, is music involved there, and that's just, again, to the noise. The template. Okay. And then you talk about preschool camps. Is that strictly inside the building, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's understandable. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's a great... Zumba had a boot camp, which is in the parking lot one day. Yeah, so as long as it's like inside, that's peachy. Yeah. Now, the only other, like your equipment sound, that hopefully will, that can, it's a cinder block building, that's the problem. It's a cinder block building, and that's a lot of the noise problem. So if that, especially in the, with the equipment and that, if you can soundproof. That'd be great. Now, you talked about you could have like up to 6 coaches with 3 kids. That comes up to 18, and if their parents are there.
If you want, you could address the commission, and then after we could have him come back as a follow-up.
Okay, saves time. His count of having 6 coaches with 3 kids, possibly if business is good, and God bless for business. That's 18 with 9 parents, and then 6 then the coaches. Now you're up to 33. So if you stay at the 24 capacity, then that cuts back your business and whatnot. But otherwise, based on what is written out, if they stick to this, I'm fine. I mean, people need business. Kids need to learn to swim. I'm not opposed to any of that. It always comes down to the noise factor and that. And hopefully all goes well and it's all, cohesive. That's our hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? I just want to make sure I followed everything. Based upon the recommendation that you saw in the staff report, is there anything that you're asking this body to change from that recommendation?
I'm questioning the speakers when they say no amplification can be used, but then it's, as I say, I think that was just taken from the previous permit and stuffed in here, so that's confusing to me.
Understood.
But based on this, they seem to have covered, and if they comply with all that and it all works out, I don't have an opposition to it.
Right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed? Sure. Did you fill out a card already? You can fill it out after. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Linda Jackson. I live here in West Covina. I just had a question about the ADA requirements. In the last month or so, I've spoken to a committee member from the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center, and we were looking into different types of recreational and social programs for developmental delayed children and adults. I heard the gentleman mention that he's going to put in a lift. Is there also a ramp with a handlebar in the pool itself to accommodate those with disabilities?
That's probably something that the applicant can be asked to come back up and explain.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions?
No, that was it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to come back up and address?
Yeah, so to address ADA compliance is we have ADA compliant bathrooms, changing rooms. The pool lift will be on the north side of the plan, and there will be rails for both stairs as well. And I do believe that wheelchair, the wheelchair lift, it swings out and it swings back in and it lifts the person down into the water, and there are handles there for them to hold on to on that lift.
So you are already in compliance with all the General Disabilities Act requirements?
Yes, it still has to go through city health approval, but that's part of the thing. If I'm running a commercial pool, it has to be ADA compliant.
Fantastic.
This requirement that they have is I have to be.
What are your hours of operation?
My hours of operation, right now we're planning 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekends. And that also, it's going to fluctuate based on my market research of other schools in the area. Their busy times during the school year is 3 to 7 or 3 to 8 at the maximum, because kids, they need to go home and go to sleep and go to school the next day. And then most of the time during the summer, people don't want to be out doing things too late in the evening, especially when they have kids at home. They want to do it early. So 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. is most likely our hours during the summer. Plus, we don't want to be there at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. every single day of the year either. So it'll fluctuate, but I'm planning on keeping it within that window.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Will you be, as you start this process on, and I wish you much success in this endeavor, is something like developing an ADA, maybe a class or session that can be done in the future?
A great idea to have a class just for people with disabilities.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of state and federal grants out there to develop classes like that.
Okay.
So it'll be it'll be great for you to look into developing a program like that and my background as a person with autism and in the developmental disability community, I know having access and knowing of programs like that in our community is very embraceful to our city, and we'll make sure to, obviously our city will always embrace those with developmental disabilities and to see how we can embrace your new endeavor and if you create a program like that and how we could help spread the word for it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's come to the mic.
Did you want to come up and speak?
My name is Phoebe, and I'm going to be the coach for the swim school. So for the sir you mentioned about, we actually thought about it. I have thought about it. It will be a great opportunity to teach kids or even adults with a disability, because like you said, it's very rare to find somewhere like have the program. So I actually thought about it and actually looked into it too. But honestly, I do need more experience for that. So we're looking into it.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just no water Zumba classes, right? Okay. Any other questions for Daphne? We're done. All right. Okay. So at this time, we'll close public hearing. And we can see if we have a motion.
Motion to adopt resolution number 21-6101, approving AUP permit number 21-24.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second to adopt resolution number 22-6101. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lewis?
Aye.
Chair Becerra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
This decision may be appealed by to the City Council within 10 days. Thank you. Would any of the commissioners like to report or comment on an item? Commissioner Williams?
I have none.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
No.
Vice Chair Lewis? Paulina, are there any items to report to the commission?
No, just Happy New Year. I think it's our first planning commission of 2022, so welcome back. We are going to be hosting a spring festival at our Sportsplex facility March 12th and the 13th. It's a collaboration with different nonprofit groups in the community. So all that information is on our website, so we encourage everyone to attend and participate in the community event. In regards to, I'll let you say the next part, sorry, getting ahead of myself.
Are there any council actions you'd like to report?
We haven't had any council actions, but I wanted to let you know that the appeal for the cell tower located at 3540 West Cameron will be before the City Council on February 15th.
Wonderful. Since there are no further business to consider, this meeting is adjourned at 8:08 p.m.
Chair?
Thank you.
Sorry. Before everybody leaves, I just wanted to introduce to everybody Jerry Rivera. He is our new assistant planner.
Hi, Jerry.
Welcome aboard.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be here.